how the people are doing. So, man, it's been a while since we did this. Now, the reason that you don't see me, as in the video recording of me talking, is because, well, turns out I'm moving abroad and everything is packed. I'm talking like light stands, the light itself, the tripods, the mic stand, everything is gone. The only thing that I have left right now, available to me for making any kind of videos, are my laptop, my bloody camera without any tripods, and of course the mic itself, which I somehow propped up so that I can at least do the bloody voiceover. And it bothers me that Google could not wait a month, just a little month, to release the damn pixels. I'm excited for it. Oh yes, of course, obviously I am, but man, such bad timing. I'm gonna try to make at least like 3 videos. I'll try my absolute best to make even more, but I don't know. I'll try, that's all I can say. But for now, let's jump in because, I mean, you saw the title. This thing's gonna be wild, to say the least. Now, first and foremost, as usual, we're gonna do the color modes. I mean, at this point we have to, it's a bloody ritual. But here's the thing. The Xiaomi 14 Ultra has 2 modes. This is like a vibrant, as you can tell. It's very vibrant. The Pixel 9 Pro, this is a default color that you can have. But there's something that you can do, which I'm a huge fan of. You can tweak a lot of things like the brightness, I believe the saturation, the contrast, all of that stuff can be tweaked, even the white balance, as far as I can remember. Now, these settings happen to be so granular that I think for every single person that buys this phone on this planet is gonna have a different setup to suit their very specific personal preferences. So for now, at least, I'm gonna keep this on auto for the sake of the comparison. But let me tell you this much: if this was the smartphone that I was using and these were the cameras that I wanted to use, I tweak it immediately to suit my personal preferences to the utmost, because it really can. And I'd say my preferences are very, very close to what Leica Authentic can provide with the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. Now, it's not perfect, it's not going to be 100% authentic or natural all of the time. It's very close to it with the colors, but it does give you a whole punch of contrast in there, and that is something I adore. It's got this absolutely beautiful balance between both natural looking colors and the color tones themselves, with a whole bunch of contrast, so that you have a lot of punch and a lot of juice in there. I mean, just look at these 2 images right here. Doesn't your eye get drawn towards the Xiaomi 14 Ultra's image instantly? Now, moving on to a backlit shot, and yes, I'm pretty sure you can tell already, it's horribly overcast, so there's no backlit by the sun or anything like that. This is the best we can do, and it doesn't really surprise me that at least with the main cameras, the Pixel can hold its own. It's got very, very good dynamic range. The Xiaomi is also up there. I mean, the Leica Authentic, it used to be a problem way back in the day, but now it's perfectly balanced, as you can tell. But of course, if you want a flat image, let's say you want less contrast, more shadow detail, and so on and so forth, well, you can get all that with Leica Vibrant. That's just how it works. And to be honest, it's so easy to switch around between the two that you could just switch between them based on the situation, based on the lighting conditions, and you can play around with it if that's something you're into. But of course, let's move on to the ultra-wide camera. This is where things are gonna get a little interesting. So the Pixel 9 Pro, it has a lot of hardware upgrades that have happened. I think it looks good. The Xiaomi 14 Ultra is it's looking a little crazy, just to be completely honest, because this is like the definition of extreme levels of contrast. I don't hate it, but I can tell you this much: most people would prefer the Pixel 9 Pro's much more regular, natural, and cautious approach, because the Xiaomi is not gonna be for everyone. It is for me, but it's not for everybody. Now, this ultra-wide shot, I took this with like a vibrant, and you can see the difference, right? The Xiaomi, now it looks very natural, very close to what the Pixel is doing. The Pixel has slightly higher contrast, which I do kind of like, but I also think the skin tones are really dark on the Pixel as opposed to the Xiaomi. You know what would be perfect? Letting us take both Leica Authentic and Leica Vibrant shots as an option. It's kind of how we take both RAW and JPEG shots. Imagine if Xiaomi did that. That would be stupendous. Anywho, here's the ultra-wide backlit, and you can immediately tell that the Xiaomi 14 Ultra's ultra-wide camera does suffer a little when it comes to Leica Authentic, which is why you have a lot of crushed shadows, as opposed to the Pixel, which is, so far it's been doing a tremendous job with the balancing. Like, I've mostly been talking about the Xiaomi 14 Ultra here because of the various modes and all that stuff, but the Pixel's been holding on and it's been doing really well across the board, very consistent, and just no real issues so far at least. But then again, you can use the Leica Vibrant with the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you want safe results, the Xiaomi 14 Ultra's Leica Vibrant is the way to go. Simple as that. But then of course the macro mode. Now this is an interesting situation to say the least, because as you can tell with the ultra-wide macro, the regular macro mode, the Pixel does get way closer and it's a significantly better of a shot, to be entirely honest. But the Xiaomi does have a slight little trick up its sleeve. Now the Pixel over here, it cannot use any other kind of macro like a telephoto macro, which we do get from the 3x camera on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, and you can tell it has a different look to it. It has no distortion, a tremendous amount of depth of field, and it almost looks proper. Moving on, of course, let us check out zoom, but before that I wanted to draw attention to this as well. So as you can tell, with a regular main camera shot, with just how overcast the situation is, the Pixel 9 Pro seems to be crushing some of the shadows. But on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, I decided to try out Leica Vibrant one more time, and the shadow detail that it preserves is quite something, and it does work out. Now moving on to 2x. See, now both of these phones allegedly have very good sensor crop with their 2x. Now overall, I think the Xiaomi takes a win. Its detail preservation is noticeably better. There's slightly less over sharpening, details in a lot of the finer textures and so on and so forth. It just looks better as opposed to the Pixel 9 Pro. Now of course the Xiaomi 14 Ultra doubles down on this whole thing with a 3x optical zoom. Now of course at 500% crop, the Xiaomi is gonna perform really well. It has optical zoom, but the Pixel's holding on quite nicely, I would say. Like if you're really not gonna pixel peep all that much, you can use up to 3x. It doesn't seem to be all that bad, at least against the 3x optical zoom that we get on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. But of course, it's not going to be as good, both at 2x or 3x, as opposed to the Xiaomi, if you really want the highest level of quality, that is. Now with 5x, this is when things will start to get interesting. At 5x itself, you're not going to see much of a difference between the two, except for the fact that the Xiaomi is kind of giving us a bluish sky, which I'm not the biggest fan of. But then at 10x, once again, really bluish sky on the Xiaomi. But I do think that with the Pixel, I'm seeing a little bit more artifacting and sharpening in there. It's very minor of a difference, and it could be because it has higher shadow detail in general, a lower contrast. Then at 30x, I think it's pretty obvious that the Xiaomi has less sharpening artifacts going on. It's not bad, once again, on the Pixel 9 Pro XL, but given the fact that both of these have the same level of zoom, optical zoom that is, and the Pixel prides itself for software, doesn't it feel a little odd that Xiaomi is able to maintain more detail at 30x? I had almost completely assumed that the Pixel would be the one here, but that's not really the case. Interesting stuff to say the least, but look, the differences are very, very minor. I don't think most people would really care with regards to such small differences, but you know what, these are flagships. This is just the way it goes. Now, with a high resolution, this is where things might get a little bit more interesting, because we do have high res with every single camera for both of these phones. So that's gotta be interesting, right? And well, see, this really bothers me. The Xiaomi is producing a near perfect shot. I mean, just look at it. It has no issues with regards to the sharpening and all that's happening. It looks almost perfect. Pixel, on the other hand, it has artifacting, it has sharpening, it has haloing, and the software is unable to utilize the hardware that the Pixel 9 Pro XL has. Which is the last thing I thought I'd say when it comes to the bloody Pixel. Let's now check out the ultrawide camera. Now the Pixel, I believe it's a new ultrawide camera that we have, a high resolution ultrawide camera. But the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, now this one has one of the widest ultrawide cameras that I've used, which is very practical when you think about it, because it's an ultrawide. Of course, it needs to be wide. But with the small sacrifice in the field of view, the Pixel 9 Pro XL with the ultra-wide high-res, it does seem to be producing a just slightly more detailed result. It's really like, you gotta pick your own poison here. With the main camera, obviously the Xiaomi was just blatantly doing a better job, but with the ultra-wide, it is losing out on detail whilst also not giving us as much processing. Moving on, of course, to the 3x, and with the 3x high-res, which is only possible on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, of course, but now, of course, cropping in, I don't think this is a surprise, right? We have high res and optical zoom on the Xiaomi side. Yes, without question, it produces a better image as opposed to the Pixel. At 5x, however, things are supposed to be different, and in this case, I would say the Xiaomi has a weird magenta tint happening, especially if you look at the brakes. That looks ridiculous. It makes no sense. I don't even know why it happened. Now, cropping all the way in, I'd say both are very, very close. it does appear that the Pixel has a lot of sharpening going on, like it is bringing out a lot of the texture detail. But on the Xiaomi, you're losing out a lot of that. It's kind of muddied, like look at the wall, you don't really have any of the texture detail. But you also don't have as much sharpening. Here's the deal. The Pixel 9 Pro, I believe it has a 42 megapixel brand new sensor with the selfie cameras. And it's a fantastic selfie camera that it has, because what you get is a really wide field of view. It's wider than the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. Absolutely love it. And also, I do want to point out in this particular case, it's a very simple shot, but the Pixel does appear to have much more natural colors, whilst the Xiaomi, you can see there's a really yellowish tint. Now with this one, it's kind of like a backlit shot, but not really, because we don't really have much light in the background. It's all clouds, which is what makes it that much more surprising, because you're getting kind of a blown out sky on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. I thought the Xiaomi's selfie camera was good. What the hell did happen here? The Pixel is doing a tremendous job. It may be cooling things off a little, but that could also be because of the overcast conditions. Fact is, it's doing an overall better job as opposed to the Xiaomi so far at least. And it just keeps going, because now the Pixel is just leagues ahead of what the Xiaomi is. It's like it's not even trying anymore. But of course, selfie portraits, maybe things will be different. We'll have to see. Now, overall, here I'd say that the Pixel is a little too cool for my personal taste, while the Xiaomi is a little too warm for what was natural to cast. I don't mind the skin tones in this case. I think it looks fairly pleasing, but it's definitely warmer than what it naturally was supposed to be. However, the reason I think the Xiaomi is blatantly taking a win is just take a look at the edge detection. And this is a problem. Let me tell you right now. Edge detection with the portrait mode. Oh my god. Now here's another shot, and again, edge detection is the biggest issue. Like, there are so many small little defects all around my frame that it looks wrong. There's the Xiaomi on the other hand, which is doing a basically perfect job. It is perfect right there. And also take a look at the bokeh in the background on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. It is one of the most natural looking bokeh that I've ever seen. It's beautiful. Now yeah, it is warming things up a lot and got a lot of saturation in my skin tones. I don't hate it in terms of the fact that it is making me look kinda nice, but it's obviously not natural. Now with a backlit portrait selfie, see, this is what really blows my mind. The regular selfie on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra could not handle a backlit shot, but somehow with a portrait mode latched on top of it, which is supposed to be even more processing intensive, it can handle itself more than well enough. The Pixel is also doing a fantastic job in this particular case. I mean, just look at the contrast. Anywho, let us move on to night selfies. Now, here's the thing. It's not good on either. See, just goddamn. I hate the fact that to this date, we have quite possibly just a single device, at least in 2024, that can handle night selfies. The Galaxy S24 Ultra. That should not be the case. It really blows my mind that smartphones like this that are supposed to be camera powerhouses and so on and so forth, they cannot do the measly night selfie. But of course, regular portraits. Now this is where it bothers me so much with the Pixel situation, because first and foremost, we don't get 1x portraits. No, apparently we don't deserve it, or we don't need it, which is worse, because we do. We want 1x portraits on the Pixel 9 Pro XL. Anyways, you might have also noticed that we were using master portrait mode on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra previously, and this is Leica portrait. The only difference between the two is that the Leica portrait will give you really punchy, really high contrast looking results. Now of course, we also have a backlit shot with the 1x, and the Xiaomi is doing a tremendous job. I mean, just look at it. It's got tremendous quality right here. Now the Pixel on the other hand, well, that's a whole different story, because you see, not only does it force a bloody 1.5x crop right down your throat. See, I wanted to say something else, but I don't think that's safe for work. Regardless, it has this weird amount of noise on my t-shirt, like it's odd to say the least. And the edge detection, I mean, just look at the side of my face. It's unacceptable, like come on. And as you can tell on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, when you have a really high contrast situation like this, Leica portraits will kind of adjust itself. It wasn't this way all the time. It's very recently got an update, and it has improved a lot. It's gotten to the point that I can actually say the Xiaomi 14 Ultra has really usable and really nice looking portraits, and you can use either of the modes you want. And believe me when I say, that was not the case before. Anyways, with the Pixel 9 Pro, we once again have a 1.5x because that's all we get. And then on the Xiaomi, this time we can choose 35mm. You see the difference there? Being stuck with something and then choosing something of your own volition. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of difference in the mindset, doesn't it? Anywho, I also gotta admit this, the Pixel does appear to really flatten out my black t-shirt as opposed to the Xiaomi, which it's using master portrait mode at this point, but it still is giving me a lot of good contrast and it's very nicely balanced. I do like that a lot. But of course, if you want to maximize on contrast, there really is nothing quite like that beautiful Leica portrait mode. I do like to use it a lot, but in certain situations where the lighting may be a little harsh, I would definitely recommend going for master portrait mode. More than likely it'll produce a better result, much more pleasing and generalized result to say the least. Now then for 2x or 50mm, whatever you want to call it. You see, this is an option that you have on the Pixel 9 Pro XL. Unfortunately, it's the only other one. The Xiaomi, of course, it does look a little overexposed, I'll tell you that much for sure. The master portrait mode did not really work out perfectly. There's always going to be some form of inconsistency in here. The Pixel is doing a really good job with the balancing thus far, but what really bothers me is, of course, the edge detection not being really up there, and also the fact that you have basically no options when it comes to the focal length. And actually, in this particular case, using Leica portraits produced a much better result. Like I'm telling you, once again, Xiaomi really needs to just condense this whole thing and give us an option to take both Leica and master portraits at the same time. Basically like how we take RAW and JPEGs. It shouldn't be that difficult with just how powerful these phones are getting. But well, here's another shot, and this time we're using 3x with the Xiaomi Phone Ultra. Of course, on the Pixel we can technically zoom into 3x, but well, it looks kind of digital and there's some sharpening artifacts and so on and so forth. It doesn't look particularly as nice as the optical zoom, obviously, that you get on the Xiaomi Phone Ultra. Overall though, I think the Xiaomi has a little bit too much warmth and the highlights are once again blown out, which is odd to say the least. And the Pixel, it has too much magenta. And then of course finally we have the 5x. The Xiaomi Phone Ultra very recently got the option enabled for allowing us to essentially take a 5x portrait mode shot. For some odd reason we could not do this before, and I complained about it a lot. I think Xiaomi finally heard it. More than likely they didn't, but well, we have the option. That's what matters at the end of the day. And now finally we have night portraits. And yes, I know once again the framing is a bit screwed up, but you also gotta understand the Pixel has a 1.5x crop, the Xiaomi does not. So yeah, how about that? The framing can be fixed if we could take a 1x shot on the Pixel, that is. But to be fair to the Pixel, it does look really nice. Like, it's maintaining the contrast on my face, and overall it looks really clean. And oddly enough, the edge detection with the night portraits, which is supposed to be the hardest of the portrait modes, is pretty good on the Pixel. It wasn't for all the daylight shots, because that's the difficult thing, right? Anyway, speaking of night mode, let's jump into it, shall we? So the Xiaomi once again gives us two options. We have Leica Vibrant, which will give you more shadow detail. It will give you slightly more vibrance, as the name indicates. Now the Pixel doesn't really have anything as such. Once again, you can tweak this stuff to your preference, the contrast especially. So you know what, if you buy the Pixel 9 Pro XL, that's the first thing I'd recommend you do. You're probably a camera enthusiast, I'm assuming that much at least. Now with the Xiaomi, once again, Leica Authentic is personally my favorite because it gives you very nighttime-esque looking shots. It doesn't look as flat. The night skies in particular look really nice on the Xiaomi Phone Ultra. Now here's another shot, and I think you can tell immediately, the Xiaomi Phone Ultra looks significantly more as if it was taken at night. Just look at the sky in the background. The Pixel is doing a really good job. It isn't going too crazy with the brightness, but it's still not nearly as natural looking as a Xiaomi Phone Ultra. However, the Pixel has a little trick up its sleeve, you see. It allows us to take high-res shots for some odd reason with night mode. Initially, I was very excited about this because this is the first time I've ever used a smartphone that gives us both of these features at the same time. So naturally, I took the shot and I cropped right in. Man, I was so hyped for this, but yes, there's really not enough of a difference to really bother with the 50 megapixels. Now here's the deal. I think that the overall sharpening level is a little bit low, like the artifacting and the sharpening that you have on the Xiaomi is maybe just half a hair's width higher, but yeah, that's not enough of a difference to really bother with, I'll be completely honest. Moving on, however, to our good old-fashioned ultra low light, and this was special because usually what happens is by the time my eyes get adjusted, I've started to take the photos. This time my eyes got adjusted and I still couldn't see the camera. The Xiaomi Phone Ultra is just doing a better job. You have more detail preservation, you have more sharpness overall, you have less noise, less grain, less artifacting. It's just doing better as opposed to the Pixel. However, the Pixel does allow us to go for something called a max night sight. It'll essentially give you a 6-second exposure, which can be a little problematic. I had to take this shot a few times, but I think it's kind of crushing shadows here, isn't it? Like a lot of the detail inside the lens and just overall in the table itself is just gone. The Xiaomi, on the other hand, it goes for a slightly different approach. You see, if you want maximum shadow detail, especially in a situation like this, you should go for Leica Vibrant. Now this gives you slightly lower contrast and it gives you that much more detail in the shadows. Now moving on to the ultra-wide camera. Now this is where things are gonna be a little bit wild, because I think you can tell immediately. The colors are completely off on both phones. The Xiaomi looks as if there's some kind of an eclipse happening. The Pixel, on the other hand, it is completely removing almost the entirety of the warmth that we had in the scene. So they're basically on two polar extremes. And yes, with the Pixel 9 Pro XL, you do get that weird little feature for taking high res with the night mode. Now, does it do anything with the ultra-wide? Well, I don't think we expected anything here, right? Like, it's exactly the same. If anything at all, with the slightly lower contrast, you get a little bit more grain on the Pixel, and that's it. You know, with the main camera, at least we had less sharpening, but I'm not really seeing much of that happening here either. Now, in this particular case, I think the Pixel is actually doing an overall better job. It's just better overall with the colors, it's very accurate with the warmth, and the Xiaomi, it still looks as if there's a nuclear bomb going off to my right. Now finally, we have the ultra-wide, ultra-low light. Now this obviously wasn't as insanely, ridiculously ultra-low light as with the main cameras. Clearly both phones are doing a really nice job. Like, you know, these are good-looking images from both phones. The Pixel is crushing shadows a little bit, but it's still producing a really nice and clean result, so I'm not really gonna complain much here. And now finally, zoom at night. You see, this is where most smartphones tend to falter somewhere or the other. Now this is of course the regular 1x shot, and well, you know, I thought let's give the Pixel's 50 megapixel shot another chance. With the main camera, it's like the only hope it has of producing something that is even mildly worthwhile. So here we go, 50 megapixels with night sight and a slightly well-lit subject. I think that's the key here, because as far as I can tell, with the main camera at least, you are getting a better result. You're getting significantly better detail preservation, less sharpening, even the highlight preservation is better as opposed to the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. But then of course, let's check out 2x. Now this is where things are going to be a little bit interesting, because 2x didn't really look all that hot with the regular daylight shots. So what about night mode? It seems at night the Pixel is actually doing a better job, because it does appear as if the Xiaomi is struggling a lot more when it comes to handling the highlights, because it's constantly blowing it out, and in this case it seems to be smearing a little bit, even though there was no wind as far as I can recall. The Pixel does have a lot of sharpening going on, like you can just see the background right there, it's full of artifacts, but well, it's still overall producing a slightly better result in my opinion. Then of course 3x. Now this is of course a place where the Xiaomi should have the obvious advantage. I do think that the Xiaomi is once again warming things up a little bit too much, maybe saturating too much, cropping all the way into 500%. This still surprises me. I saw this once before, but damn. Somehow, it does have more sharpening on the Pixel, but it is still holding on. It is in the realm of competition with the Xiaomi 14 Ultra's optical night mode zoom. Then finally we have 5x, which is optical zoom on both, and as far as I can remember, I think both of them used the optical zoom cameras in this particular case. It's kind of why I chose a slightly well-lit subject, otherwise it wouldn't have been used. And with that in mind, cropping all the way in, the Pixel once again, very processed, very sharpened. It's like two sides of a spectrum really. If you don't mind the processed look, then the Pixel will produce maybe a little bit more detail. If you really hate the processing, then the Xiaomi will ensure that it doesn't have any of that in its image. That's basically the conclusion that I'm deriving at. And so with that in mind, god damn, there's so much going on with these phones. Look, the Xiaomi, I'm gonna tell you what, Xiaomi has improved this smartphone, the 14 Ultra, so very much. Now the Pixel and Pixel, considering that it just launched and considering just how well the Xiaomi has improved, it kind of gives me a little bit hope that maybe Google will look into the software side of things, improve things a little bit at least. Like, come on. And just think about it. Google's whole shindig is that it does software really well, and the Pixel is all about the software experience. Well, I expected the same thing from the cameras, and guess what is one of the most processing and software dependent features in the camera? The portrait mode. And somehow the Pixel manages to suck balls the size of Manhattan at it. It bothers me so much. There's no two ways about it. Well, with that said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and I will once again try to get as many videos out before I'm gone. And so I'll see you guys soon enough with more. Cheers.